If you don't understand how to communicate effectively and work with people because you think your sponge is going to change the world, then you got a bigger issue. You have to work within a team. It doesn't matter. You have to work with people you work with. You have to work with strangers who could not care less about you. But at the end of the day, you can be passionate, but you have to be able to convey where the value is for everybody else.
Welcome to Masters of Home Service, the best podcast for home service pros like us. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester, and I want you to crush it in business. Today, we're in a special studio in Miami, Florida. And my guest today not only owns one business or 5 or even 10, he owns dozens of businesses. He is the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. He is the king of hustle. He knows what he's doing. He's an author, speaker, and he's one of us. And he's your favorite shark on Shark Tank. Daymond John, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Man, that was a great intro. I appreciate that, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. So you are known for a lot of things. You're known for FUBU, obviously, and Shark Tank, and you're an author, speaker, and you're the owner of Bombas socks, and you used to do a podcast, all that. What do you want to be known for?
I'm going the American dream. Kid who just hustled, didn't have a lot of resources, but grew up in the greatest country in the world and busted my butt. And, hopefully, made my family proud.
Yeah. And so you think anyone could do that?
Absolutely. If Barbara can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah.
What do you think is keeping people back from doing that? There's people listening here that are trying to start a business, run a business successfully. Maybe they're struggling. What prevents people from living the American dream?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I think that it's a lot of different elements. I'm not a economist, but I think that many people either were raised by people who told them that this is what the American dream is, or don't believe you can do that. I don't know. I don't think I've ever been asked that question.
I was telling my son a couple weeks ago, he was asking me why so-and-so succeeded and the other one didn't, because they had the same parents. I said, son, some people just break out of it and just go and just do their thing, and some don't. And I think it's a mindset thing, but I also, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Where'd that mindset come from? I've heard people say that, people with money are evil. People without money are evil too, and people with money are evil. I've heard them say, well, you know what? Grow up, get a great education, and go work at some place and retire. And you know what? Your parents' could have done that. It's not like that today. One parent can't stay home. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate. I just don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, that's question's going to haunt me for a long time. Thank you.
Well, there'll be more, so don't worry about that
All
one.
right.
So, but you wrote a book, a children's book.
Yep.
And it was about this whole concept, right? Of inspiring the younger generation to do more, right?
Little Daymond learns to earn. It wasn't about to do more. It was about what is entrepreneurship and what is money. We weren't taught what money is in school. We weren't taught about taxes, compounding interest, and various other things. And our great educators, a lot of them weren't taught that. They can teach you about history and art and math and stuff like that. And so what I wanted people to understand for this book was that we have to understand how money works as children, because we will then grow up and we will be adults. And if we don't know how money works, well, what happens? Well, then you have financial stress at the home, right? And then you buy to eat. You have you buy the cheapest things, which are made out of butter, sugar, and salt. And then you have bad health. So I think that it's money that people just need to know how the tool works. And we weren't taught it coming up.
Yeah. So compounding interest is really fascinating.
Yeah.
I try to teach my kids. My oldest is 9. And it's so powerful.
It is.
Yeah. How has that changed your life?
Well, I almost went bankrupt 2 times when I had nothing, and 1 time when I had a lot. And not knowing how it compounds. And, in the market, a point, 2 points is big.
Yeah.
People don't think about it like that, especially now in the swipe culture of credit cards and various other things. So the saying is, if you know about interest, you'll earn it. If you don't, you'll pay it. And again, we weren't taught about these things, about putting away, if we could, $100 a month, starting at 15 years old. And what would that be at 50, 60, 70 years old? It's these things that we all had to stumble across later on in life.
Yeah. Some of us learn them. Some of us don't. So business owners, you're not opposed to debt.
No, good debt.
Yeah. Good debt. What's good debt?
Good debt is having somebody else pay your bills.
Okay.
Good debt is I bought a house and the mortgage on it and everything involved is $3,000 a month, and somebody's renting it at $3,500 a month,
Mm,
right? So they're paying that debt down. That's good debt. Bad debt is what we call doodads, right? I bought a home and I have a $10,000 mortgage, but I really don't use much of the home, and it's in an area where I'm putting a lot into it, and it's just going to supersede the pricing in the area.
yeah. Is there good debt and bad debt in business?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. Inventory, whether it is people, whether it is equipment and various other things, if you don't have orders to fulfill it for that, then that's bad debt. If you decided, well, I want to open up a factory to do, to manufacture my clothing. But if you're only using it 20% of the time and that
Mm,
line is not being used 80% of the time and you're not renting it out to somebody else or putting more goods in it, that's bad debt.
yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he bought a boom for his business, but then he's not going to use it every day. He's actually going to rent it out as a rental company. I thought that was really smart.
That's very, very smart. And a lot of people don't know the wealthy people, they rent their planes out, they rent everything else they have, they rent it out.
Mm, interesting. So obviously you're an investor, and
Yeah.
so if I get an investor come in and invest in my business,
hmm
is that considered debt on my part? Do I have debt now that I have an investor? Do you consider the same?
Well, it's a loan. It
It's a
depends.
loan.
It depends on what kind of investor you have. Are they investing and they want the street money today? I think is 17 or 18%. That's a lot, right? But if you
Hmm.
have no personal guarantees, depends, right? And that's why it might be so high. Do they want interest on their money? Do they want a share of the business? Is it a Kevin O'Leary royalty? It
Mm,
all depends on the numbers, and what are you doing with the money? If you're running it into advertising and marketing and you're not seeing a conversion on it, it could be dangerous. If you're buying equipment because you can't keep up with the orders, well, that's different.
yeah. When you're evaluating a business, what and they ask you, say, for $100,000, what are you like hoping that they tell you they're going to use it for? Are there good things that they use it for, and then there's some
Yeah,
reasons that they
yeah.
aren't
Are,
good
are
reasons?
they using it because they can't keep up with the orders? Meaning, okay, well, I need to buy more inventory because if I have $1 million in orders. I don't have enough money for the inventory.
Okay.
But if I buy more of these units, I get them in at a better price, and the margin is bigger. So,
Mm,
but if they go, well, I need the money, and I just want to manufacture more goods, and then I'm going to go out and try to sell it, that's a different issue.
yeah.
They don't have any sales.
Because as the investor, you have to weigh risk, right?
Yeah.
It's really all about risk. Do I want to take this risk or that risk? I feel like as business owners, we have to decide what risk we take. How do you decide? Like when you're trying to build your business and grow?
It's really harder as an investor you're talking about, or you're talking about as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, for our listeners, like how would you coach them to decide which risks to take, especially when it comes to accepting money or getting loans, that kind of thing?
Being an entrepreneur is a very personal decision you have to make. You may say, well, listen, I have an ice cream shop. It's up in the Northeast. And, for 6 months out of the year, I do really well with it. And I do about $250,000 and I have 20% or 20% I walk away with. So that would be, let's say, what was that, $50,000 a year.
Hmm.
Okay. So now you're working for 6 months, right? You're working with kids, probably your family can maybe works in it, whatever the case is. And that's great. If you want to go and get an investor in there and they give you an extra $200,000, but now you have to work for the whole year and
Mm,
you leave with the same amount of money because you're giving the investor the other 50,000 to pay down the $200,000. Was it worth it? All you did was double your work.
right.
Right. So, as an entrepreneur, some people just go, I don't want to listen to other people. Some people say, I want to solve this problem. Some people say, I want my family to have a business that maybe down the road we franchise. It's very hard to tell people what the reward is in business.
Mm. I think that something I see a lot is that people adopt the dreams of people they see on podcasts like this. Where they think, well, that guy has a lot of money, tons of businesses, and so I want to be like that,
Yeah.
without really actually considering what they want. Like so several years ago, I thought I wanted to franchise my gutter business all over the place. And then I realized I didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really healthy realization for me. I still want to grow it and make it big and all that kind of stuff, but the multi-location just wasn't for me. So I think every business owner, entrepreneur has to decide for them, how far do I want to take this? Because the big flashy life isn't for everyone.
That's a personal decision that you don't even do as an entrepreneur. You do as a human being. Do I really want to work this 9 to 5 and not see my kids grow because I'm working on somebody else's dream? And if they don't run that dream the right way, I'm gone. Or do I want to work a 9 to 5 because I want to be home from, 6 to whenever the case is? Again, a lot of people don't realize when they start getting into things, what is the end goal? Myself as well. I have to think about a lot of times, what do I really want to accomplish within this time? And I think that we all go through our periods of life every 7 years. I think, we go through this point where we reflect, where we are, because we've never been there before. And as we get to that point, is it worth it? As one of my guys on my team says, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right. Yeah. Is that a trait, so to speak, that you look for with investors? Like, can you tell when you're talking to somebody if they have that vision of where they actually really want to go versus they're just kind of floating around looking for money and just trying to build their business? Can you see that coming a little bit?
You can. You definitely can, because a lot of times you'll ask a business owner, you'll say, well, when am I getting my money? Well, I need $200,000. Okay. When am I getting my money? Especially you see a lot of the people on Shark Tank, right? 5%, 2%. Okay. So if I give you $200,000, and let's do even a number like 100,000. If I give you $100,000 and I have 5% of the business, well, if you do, let's say healthy margin, 20% is what you're taking out of the business, but you really want to roll money back in. If you do $1 million and you took out 20%, you didn't invest any more in the business. I gave you $100,000. Well, you now made $200,000. What of that is mine?
Your percentage.
$10,000 is mine. I gave you $100,000. It's going to take me 10 years to just get even. If everything goes just the way it is right now,
right?
Why would I do that? To just get even in 10 years? I may be dead. But the business owner's not thinking that. All right. If I sent my money over to Apple, though, and it almost doubled at a certain period of time, I would make my money back immediately. 2 years, 3 years.
And
nobody would call me to fix a computer.
Yeah.
So people often are thinking about investment because they're just so busy. They want to solve this problem that they have. What's in it for the investor?
I think I heard you one time say that the investors or the founders of Bombas, Randy, I think David,
Randy,
they were really impressive to you.
Very impressive.
Okay. We only get a 10-minute clip edited down.
Yeah.
And what did you see that the other sharks didn't even see in them that made you want to invest with them?
I didn't believe them, first of all, that they wanted the money for, or they wanted a deal, because I think, was it Dave's dad or somebody was already in the hosiery business. So manufacturer. So I was like, he's already got this, but I just liked them so much. And I didn't actually want to go into apparel because I already had 10 clothing brands and 8 of them were dead. But I love the fact that it was a component to it to give, the charitable component. Every time you buy a pair of Bombas, they give a pair to the community in need, the homeless community. And they don't just give it. They know the directors. They're in these communities. They really cared. Also, Instagram and those platforms are really starting to take off. And they were selling direct to consumer and teaching me how I don't need retailers. That's why I invested in them. They're the most successful product in Shark Tank history invested in all 54 Shark Tanks around the world, or Dragon's Den, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't help them that much. They call me and I'll give them 10 things to do, and they'll say, okay, I'll try this one. Maybe I'll think about this other one, and the other 8 doesn't work for us. They're amazing founders.
Now, so the things that I heard you say is that you like the buy one, give one free.
Yeah.
Is that because obviously that's a good thing? It also markets well, I would assume. Like it's a good marketing.
It's a great
Tell us about
marketing
that.
tool now.
It wasn't cool back then. Is that what you're saying?
Tom's Shoes obviously
Tom's,
created that, and they actually had some backlash because they said, well, these shoes that they're airdropping into communities, sometimes they're ending up in the wrong places. So it wasn't necessarily something that everybody, were hot on. But it didn't matter to Dave and Randy. They founded the company off of this idea. Because if it was just that easy that, just give something away to somebody and everybody will flock to you, then nobody would have a problem in business.
Yeah, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you also, you appreciated that they were just, you were attracted to maybe learning something. It sounds like you saw an opportunity to learn from them.
Absolutely. I learned from
pretty
all
cool.
my entrepreneurs. If I learn, every one of the entrepreneurs are doing businesses in different ways. They're solving a different problem, and you can learn from what they're doing and apply it to other areas of your business. 100%.
Do you think business just comes down to solving a problem?
Yes. Well, it comes down to two things. I always say, you're either solving a problem or bringing somebody joy, and you bring somebody joy, you solve a problem, vice versa. That's it. That's the only thing you're doing. You're making somebody, and you only can sell people time, right? You're solving a problem. You're compressing the time.
Tell me more about that. What if I sell a product? Am I still saving them time? Tell me more about that. I'm curious.
So why does Amazon work? Do you want to get in your car and go to the mall?
Not at all.
All right. Why does Facebook work? Do you want to go over grandma's house and look at her stupid ass pictures from when she went on vacation, or you want to like it on Facebook and say, "Grandma, I like it"? You're saving people time. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. My buddy Ryan Dice would say, people pay for a couple of things. They pay for education, entertainment, and they pay somebody to do something they're too lazy to do themselves. And listen, I'm not a highly educated man. I tell people this. The only thing I did in school that was notable is I liked the 7th grade so much I took it twice. So I'm not a highly educated man. I'm a really basic, fundamental guy. You're taking a plane ride because you don't feel like riding on a horse or a donkey. You know what I mean? Whatever the case is, you're buying clothes because you don't want to make it yourself.
Yeah. I love when people whine about flights. You paid $500 to go from here to across the country in 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So the third thing you said, people pay you to do something that you don't want to do yourself or don't have time for. That's our listeners, because we're painters, plumbers,
100%.
HVAC guys. We're doing things that a lot of our house cleaners, things that people can definitely do themselves, but they don't want to. And so for us, it comes down to creating such a value proposition to them that they just can't say no. And I think that we're solving problems every day.
You are.
Tell me about what you do when you first invest in a new business, because I think that there is some lessons to be learned from there. Like you go in, obviously you don't sign up with everybody, right? With Shark Tank, 60 or so % of them you do, but then the rest fall off after you go through some due diligence.
So we do due diligence first.
Yeah, due diligence.
First we do due diligence. Is this true? Do you own the patent or the trademark? Do you have the legal rights to this? Where are your bank accounts, your receipts? And do you have an operating business? Whatever you have said, whatever you claim you had.
Okay.
First. Then, what is the use of the proceeds? What is the use of money? What are you going to do with the money? Oh, I need $100,000. All right. Why? Well, I'm going to get more marketing campaign. I'm going to buy more marketing campaigns. You got a $5 million commercial on Shark Tank. Why are you going to use that for? You don't know what you're talking about. All right. Then the next step is we will release the money according to you hitting these milestones. We'll release 20% now, 20% then, because you're telling me everything's great. I never had an entrepreneur say, "I promise you, I'm going to screw this up."
Right.
They've never said, "We're going to lose business next year."
You're going to be so glad you invested in me.
So what are the markers? Yeah.
So then what are some of the things that you hope you don't see?
I've heard it all. I've had people come back and say, "You know what? Too hard. I'm going back to my day job. Goodbye." What happened to my money? I'm going to figure that out.
Gosh, yeah.
I think the only thing that really irks me is when an entrepreneur is so passionate about what they're trying to do that they don't want to take any advice. And so when I say stuff like, I've had this several times. This is going to work, Daymond. This is going to work. Okay, no problem. Here is my team. Make sure you call them. You figure these things out. And then a year later, how come nobody ever heard from me? I know, but I sent them an email and I ain't going to beg people.
Mm.
Well, do you think any of my team is waking up going, I can't wait to work on that sponge today? If you don't want to beg people, well, you think any buyer, anybody, any customer is walking down a block going, I can't wait to get pitched a sponge today.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand how to communicate effectively and work with people because you think your sponge is going to change the world, then you got a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that you're not built to be an entrepreneur. You're not built to work within a team. You have to work within a team. It doesn't matter. You have to work with people you work with. You have to work with strangers who could not care less about you. And when they put their hand in their pocketbook to take that money out to pay you, that's one less dollar they're giving to their child, their family, whoever the case is. Those are the entrepreneurs that are too hard-headed and they're so passionate. But at the end of the day, you can be passionate, but you have to be able to convey where the value is for everybody else that you're working with.
What makes a good communicator? You mentioned communication. What makes a good communicator?
A good communicator is somebody who's communicating with you and can say it in very small, soluble ways of what's in it for you.
What's in it for you?
Remember, there's a lot of communicators who tell people their problems. I need to sell this. And by the way, I got this, man. And, I'm really trying to get this product off. And, but I've been losing a lot of sleep on it. I've been trying to figure it out. I'm having problems with my wife. So remember the saying, don't tell people your problem. 20% don't really care. And the other 80% are really happy you have them. I'm glad you have problems with your wife because I got problems with my wife too. I'm not alone, am I? Good.
Right.
Now get the hell out of my face. I'm not buying that shit.
Okay, so you have...
Not that I have a problem with my wife.
Well, of course not.
She's the best person in history.
So you have these people who are more takers than givers, is what it really comes down to.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm a hopeless romantic. And I hope that every person in the world and every entrepreneur wants to solve a problem and wants to provide value. But con men and con women, they don't have anything to sell. You know what they sell? Trust. What's in it for you? Yeah. They're bad people, but they've learned to master communicating.
And there's a lot of those online right now.
A lot. You've ever seen the one that said the diet pill that all the sharks invested in?
I don't know about this.
You've never seen that one? Oh man, it's over there. I feel horrible. Why? Because first of all, I wasn't that skinny in that one, in that picture. So it obviously wasn't working, number one, if it was true. But second of all, you got mothers and parents. I get a lot of people whose parents bought those pills. It's a scam artist selling you something to put in your system.
Wow.
It's bad people.
Yeah. So speaking of health, I'm curious. So 2017, you got diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Is that right?
With stage 2 cancer. Yeah.
Okay.
Thyroid, yeah.
And you beat it, thankfully. What kind of impact did that have on you?
It had an impact on me. But to be very honest, I said, I got to take myself more serious and I got to get on top of my health. And I didn't for a while. More than I didn't. I started trying to get healthier, but I realized what I needed to stop doing was drinking. And I didn't do it. Then all of a sudden COVID happened. Boy, and I was knocking them down at that point. Right. Yeah. And then, but I stuck to it and I realized that, I need to take care of myself. And I changed my life. And I started sharing it with other people.
So, it's funny to have, not funny, it's just human behavior. You have this life-changing moment that could trigger a change, but some of us are hard-headed and we're humans and we don't change right away. But you're saying then 2020 happened and then you really started to make a change, stop drinking. Anything else?
Yeah, I started doing a lot more biohacking and a lot of today I won't eat until tomorrow 5 p.m. because I'll fast for 40 hours once a week. And I started really understanding a little bit more and trying to be this guinea pig of health.
Interesting.
Because I have access to so many amazing, health professionals. And then I wanted to share it with everybody else because the one thing us entrepreneurs do also have in common is we take care of everybody else but ourselves.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go there, because I think a lot of our entrepreneurs listening are in the thick of it. You know, there are plenty listening who have a business. Like my dad always says, you can have having a business can be like having a lion by its tail. What do you do with it? You can't let go of it or it's going to devour
100%,
you. But you can't hold on to it forever. So what do you do?
Yeah, that's hard. Entrepreneurs, we don't take care of ourselves. Because we're so busy trying. Here's the life of an entrepreneur, and I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. You can't tell anybody your problems because everybody thinks you walk on water. You have financial stress, at the home. You have your children. You have health matters going on. Everybody else gets paid but you. The UPS person, the tools you got to buy, the this, the that. And there's no guarantee that you're going to win.
Yeah.
Right? You can work in a business 10 years and find out you have to close the business down. Everybody else got paid but you. So with that amount of stress that an entrepreneur has, the worst thing that you can do is not take care of your health, because, once that is gone, you're done.
Yeah. What would you tell an entrepreneur who is in that messy middle where they're making money, but they're also working a lot?
Yeah.
And let's pretend they walk in the Shark Tank. Because a lot of times it seems like people don't really know the questions that you ask them, or they're surprised by something you ask them. Yeah. What are some things that every business owner should just know off the top of their head?
Know their numbers and know what they're netting. Know what they're taking home, very clean. Know how they're going to scale the business, and know how they're going to pay back the entrepreneur for sure. Know their customer, what's keeping their customer up at night, and what are ways that they can extract more money from the business, whether you increase sales or provide more for the customer, or you decrease costs, use some AI maybe for, of course, we work with Java, and use some things that could reduce a lot of your costs. So you got to know where the hidden gems are in the company. I was talking to somebody who had won the Jobber grant a little while back, and he was saying that he's in Denver and he has a window cleaning business, but certain seasonal times it wasn't that great. So what did he do? He started to then do the holiday lighting. Another person in that same situation would have said, well, I need to cut my staff during this period of time. And now all of a sudden you have heavy turnover for staff because they don't have any reliability on, on their career or their jobs. But instead, he added to his current customer base another way to monetize, because they must already like his business. So you have to know that within your business.
Yeah. I think the best business owners that I know think more, not less. I see them reaching for things and like, I can go do that and that and that. And they think about opportunities where the ones that aren't thriving, you could call it mindset, you call it whatever you want. They're thinking, well, we got to shut down for the winter.
Yeah.
Instead of like, well, can we work in the winter instead?
Yeah, because if you shut down, now again, that's the ice cream parlor one, right? If you what are you really looking for in the business? If you shut down, well, you're also not getting educated more on where that business is going during those times when you shut down.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more
because
about that.
Things are changing more every single day. If you shut down or get smaller and you're not really working on the business, but you're just trying to just manage it, for that period of time, you're not realizing the new tools coming out, the new changing in buying habits, the way the customer is today. You're not.
You're out of the game.
You're not in the game, right? Yeah. You're not working out.
Yeah. You're atrophying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a mistake early on in business. One of many mistakes I made. One of them was thinking that like, once I get out of the field, then I'll be out of the field. So in that case, it was cutting grass. So once I stop cutting grass, then I'll have made it. I'll have arrived. And then I stopped cutting grass. I replaced myself out there, great, delegated. And then I realized, well, now I'm just doing the next thing in the field. It's not in the field, but it's answering the phone or doing invoicing or scheduling and I realized that there's so many layers of being in the field, doing the work yourself that I feel like on my worst day, I can feel like I'll never quite be a true owner of the business, and I'll always be in it. You're talking about working on the business versus in the business. How do you get out of that?
You have to give up power. You have to bring in operators. You have to bring in people that you trust or grow them in the business. I deal with it all the time myself. I have a business where, listen, I can't have other people go and speak and take my place.
That's true.
Right? How many people can it really handle my social media and talk like with my level of experience? Right? So I have to look at other areas that I can get out a little bit and leave it up to the younger, smarter, or older and smarter. It doesn't matter. The smarter people than I am. Yeah.
Mm.
You're constantly doing that 100%.
So is the idea of working yourself completely out of a job, is that just kind of made up for internet sensation? Because if someone, frankly speaking, has achieved as much as you have, you're still part of your business in a way,
Yeah.
which you probably love speaking, all
But
that
I
kind of stuff.
love, but what's the purpose of working out of the job? Like you want to,
It's a good question.
again, these are all personal matter. Do you want
Yeah.
to go and travel the world? Do you want to spend more time with your family? Well, what is that worth to you?
Hmm.
Other than that, if you don't have purpose, what do they say? 30% of people who retire pass away, 3 years after that. Now that could be they retired because they were sick, or they don't have any purpose afterwards. Right? These are all personal matters that everybody has to face. There's no one answer. And as you were saying about the cutting of the grass and then moving it someplace else, I always share with people, you never arrive, right?
Mm.
Every problem you solve, you create another problem. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But that's life, isn't it? So when I started FUBU, we wanted to get more sales. So we started getting more sales. Well, what we solved that problem. Well, what problem we created after that? Well, now we need customer service. Well, now we got customer service. We solved that problem. Well, what's the problem now? Well, then how do we take back the goods that people are not satisfied with?
Mm.
Well, we solved that problem. Well, now we're taking back the goods. What other problem we have? Well, we now have to have a warehouse for the goods that we're taking back. Well, then what's the problem after that? Well, now we got to get rid of those old goods because that's our margin, right?
Yeah.
What's after that? Well, now we got to buy sharper, right? So that we don't have goods that are inferior. Now we
That's
need
right.
quality control. It's the same as I say to people. It's the same about a family. How old is your child?
My oldest is 9.
Your oldest is 9.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you met a great woman. You're raising a beautiful child, right? So the problem is going to be, when that child is now 14, 15, somebody needs to stay more and monitor that child at that delicate age, right?
Hmm.
So now you're gonna have to shift the business or somebody, the partner in
Something's got to change. Yeah.
yeah. Then the kid goes off to college. Well, then now you got to start traveling to college. Well, now all of a sudden the kid is beautiful, has their own family. Well, now you're an empty nester. You know the problem you got to solve. Then you got to re-engage with your wife and find out who are you now after 20 years have passed.
Yeah.
Well, then now you got to adjust the business so you can enjoy that time and travel the world.
Yeah.
You solve the problem. Now you're traveling the world. And guess what happens? You become a grandparent. Now you got to move to Florida.
That's right. Yeah. I think that's so true. I think, David, I think so many people, me included, have lost sight of that throughout their business journey, where they say, "Oh, I'm doing this for you, babe," and all they do is just work. The kids will move away and they'll start their own families, and then it's just you and her. And are you still soulmates, or are you just like roommates at that point? And that happens a lot.
A lot of these answers are way above my pay grade, but it's just a reality of world, and we're all growing.
Yeah. I want to ask you about an issue that you've helped a owner that you invested in solve.
Yeah, it's almost every one of them the same problem. I need more money.
Okay.
And I go, no. And that forces what they call the power of broke, because plenty of my business owners have said, even the business went to zero or the business worked out, they go, if you would have gave me more money, I would have lost more money. Or if you would have gave me more money, I wouldn't have been forced to figure this out. There's only be three things a mentor in business is going to do: tell you not to take in money too soon, tell you not to spread yourself too thin, and tell you not to grow too fast. Those are only three things generally. Because as business owners and A-type personalities, you want to just keep going. You want to keep going. You
Yeah.
want to keep going. And a lot of times that's the real thing that mentors are going to do. So it's almost been the same thing all the time. I want more money for me. No. I want to go get more money out there. I don't think you should. Then they go and get payday loans and various other things. And now they're at 30, 35%. And I'm like, well, what did that do for you?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
And again, it's the pressure of the customers going, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. As Kevin would say, are they giving you any money? Real money?
Right.
Investing? They're buying one thing, but they're not,
Yeah.
don't get caught up in the hype.
You got to listen to your customer, but not everything.
Not everything. No, not everything. It all depends on who's saying it. The information is not the information you get, it's the source of the information that you're getting it from. When I was selling to Kohl's, department store, FUBU was super hot, and another company was super hot, Jenko Jeans, super hot, great company, but they were making for skateboarders at the time, and they were making these huge bell bottoms, which is great. It worked for them. Kohl's was like, hey, you're doing really well over here, but we want to put you in this department too. We need those 17-inch bell bottoms for skateboarders, or we're going to give that area to somebody else. Well, that's a customer saying it, right? That's the Kohl's buyer. Now, that person is writing $10 million worth of orders. Yeah. I need to pay attention to that person. But I said, no. Why? Well, if I would have put out those jeans at that time, by the time I cut those jeans, ship them, whatever the case is, I'm a year later. That kid is on to something else already.
The fad's over by then.
The fad's over, right? So sometimes you got to know who the end customer is. The end customer is my kid. You mean the kids in the street?
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me when I went to department stores when we first started. Believe it or not, department stores wouldn't carry our clothing because we had 4 African American on the hang tags, and they were like, well, listen, I don't want those people coming in here and having shootouts and stuff like that. And I was like, when did you ever see a shootout in a store over jeans? No problem. We started selling to the mom and pop stores, the small business owners. And here was the best thing about them. These mom and pop stores had one store in the hood. If I sold to a Macy's at that point, or a Kohl's, or the big department stores, they sell through the goods. They may order some more. They may not. They don't even know who bought it. Those people, as we know, small business owners, they're living check by check. And when those kids came into those stores, they would say, here's who makes the clothes. They would tell them the whole story.
Yeah.
They sold out on a Monday. They're ordering on a Tuesday. Well, the big store, they sell out on a Monday. They'll get to you. By the time those small little stores, by the time the big departments turned around, those small little stores, they didn't have 1. They had 10. Because they grew so good with us and Caulk and I and so many other of the small bit, Mecca and all those clothing. And now you time that by 1,000 of those small stores. The big guys and girls were like, wait a minute, we made a mistake. I knew my customer though. It was the hood.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you about that. Because if you go to Bombas socks, for example, today, there's not just socks on there. There's tons of, there's all kinds of stuff on there. Shirts,
slippers,
t-shirts, underwear, slippers, all that stuff. Did you tell them, hey guys, don't do all that extra stuff? Like how
I didn't tell them much, man. I've got to tell you. Actually, when I told them stuff, they kind of hung up on me half the time. I first did the deal. All right, guys, we did the deal. Now, by the way, I'm a licensing king. I want you to make Flavor Flav socks, Snoop Doggy Dogg socks. And they were like, no, thank you. Goodbye. The first license they do, Sesame Street. I go, this is as stupid as it gets. What's wrong with these idiots? Sesame Street? Now, at the time, my daughter was probably about 3 years old. Mommy and daughter can always dress the same if they like. It's cute. Daddy, you have a daughter at all?
I do. 4, yeah.
All right, you can't dress like her. But my daughter came in one day. She said, Daddy, put on your Elmos. I got my Elmos on. And at that moment, that little tear came down my eyes, and I called those Bombas guys and said, you guys are amazing.
You guys are
You know what you're talking about.
They stuck their guns.
They stick to their guns, and they're data guys. They're not guessing. They're going out to their audience, asking, what do you want to see? What do you like? They're really focused on data. And they're just brilliant operators, and we can all learn from them.
Yeah. I try to be as data-driven as I can be. Not always. Sometimes I just use my gut if that's all I've got.
Yeah.
But when you say data, what do you mean by that exactly? Like what would they have gone and looked at?
They may have said no. They may have said, hey, we're thinking about these type of licenses. Would anybody who likes this? And they
Mm,
may probably looked at and said, what are the more recognizable, clean IPs out there? Everybody loves Sesame Street.
mm,
Grandma, mom, dad, the kids. They
sure.
probably looked at that data, and then personally, they were probably like, come to the office and go, what do you guys think? Oh my God, I love it.
Hmm.
Right? You're right. Gut has a lot to play in data. But it depends. It's just about acquiring as much information from all different sources. A lot of entrepreneurs are just like, I know this is going to work, and this is why it's the best. That's nice. You need data. You need
Yeah.
information no matter how you acquire it. In FUBU, we had to start locking up a lot of the showroom because the pieces would get stolen, from the interns or people. And then and what we realized? Watch what pieces get stolen and make more of them.
That's smart. I like that. That's a
Yeah. The
zinger.
only problem is I walk down the street and I see an intern who stole a jacket. I say, why the hell you stole a jacket? Hey man, I'm just trying to give you some data, baby.
I'm a data guy. I think that a lot of people just think that they're so smart. I used to think I was so smart and that every hunch was right.
Yeah.
Every assumption I made was right until I started. I don't want to over embellish this, but for a little while, I would write down some assumptions that I was making about just anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then later I would keep a journal every day and I'd look back and be like, I was totally wrong. And I was sure I was right.
Yeah.
Or I'll have an idea and I'll try to keep the idea to myself because it's just so good. I can't let anyone touch it. Or it's perfect. I don't want to be imperfect.
Yeah.
And then you go give that idea to someone and they're like, well, what about this, 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 and this? And they're like,
But why was that?
I didn't think about that.
Why do you think that idea was so brilliant?
Oh, I think it's pride.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a little. I'm not a highly educated man. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and every one of us has 10 ideas a day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only, so everybody has 2 things in common on this planet. We all have ideas, and we all have buttholes, and both of them stink. It's all about execution.
Yeah.
You will never create anything new in this world. Do you know that? Maybe a new form of delivery. You may make it lighter, faster, stronger, find another customer, but it's not new. Tell me something that's new.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new. The Voice, the TV show, was just American Idol. They just turned the chairs.
That's so true.
And American Idol is the Gong Show without the gong, and the Gong Show is Showtime at the Apollo without the Sandman. The Snuggies blanket, it just has 2 holes in it. And emojis, they're not new. They're hieroglyphics.
Right.
Nothing new, man.
Yeah.
It's execution. Bombas socks is socks. That's not new. And you know that one of the other top selling product in Shark Tank history?
What?
A stupid ass sponge.
Really?
The damn scrub daddy.
The scrub daddy, yeah.
It's just a smiley face sponge.
That's insane.
Think about that. Out of all the things that have come on Shark Tank, sock and a sponge.
Just reinvented, yeah, but with a smiley on it. So how do you execute? If you got this idea, whether
That's
it's good
the
or
big
bad,
question.
how do you execute?
That's the big question. How do you execute? Everybody's execution is different. You can be a plumber and you can say, I want to get more accounts plumbing. Or you could be on Whatnot and TikTok and you can do live selling plumbing tools. Which one is it?
Yeah.
Right? Or you can acquire a lot of the mom and pop shops that the baby boomers don't have a kid to take over that shop, and you can be an aggregator to tell people where to go to these shops around the world, and you can create a massive business. You can create a Craigslist or some kind of like a listing service.
Yeah.
There's no one way to do a business.
Totally. Yeah. I'm always shocked when I hear people do something. I'm like, what? You're doing that? Yeah. Daymond, I want to tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I was just hanging out with my buddy. He works for a property management company. He's the maintenance guy. He goes around and manages all these properties. And we're having lunch. We're talking about one of the owners. I just very casually said, oh, does he ever like jump in and help or anything? And he looked at me with this incredulous look and said, no, of course not. He's the owner. And that was really a profound moment for me because I struggled at the time to embrace the owner identity. I was a little insecure about it. I felt like I had to, if I wasn't doing something, then I was a bad example and bad leader and all this kind of stuff. And I think that was actually a pretty big moment for me where I stopped being ashamed of being the owner and actually like embraced it, where I'm actually building an asset that I'm providing jobs and creating, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
There's a lot of ways to lead. I personally believe that the owner should be willing to jump in at any moment and move and do anything, and he leads or she leads by example. But I can totally respect and understand that why this person doesn't do it. If they're paying good money, they have put the people in place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a restaurant and you have a bunch of bus boys, girls, why would you be cleaning up? But if you have a restaurant and there's still dishes on the table, you're walking by it, pick up the dishes.
Yeah. Because he was an employee and he thought that was totally fine. You know, he does his job and I do my job, and my job is different than his. It just was I think a lot of our listeners struggle with this idea of like, how do I, because in the very beginning of this conversation, you said you have to let go. You have to let go and like let other people empower other people. And I think that process can be really difficult as the owner of the business to let go.
That is very hard to do. But, you know, it depends. It's a complex question you're asking, because if I'm with a team member that knows that that's what they do, then they should do it. And I shouldn't have to. But again, you have to be ready to do it at any time. You know, also, you know, I think as team members, you have to keep your boss to a certain level of respect too. You know, you have to say, I know my position. That's my boss, man. I don't want that person to do it, because then why would I be here?
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is the person whose time is worth $5,000 an hour doing something that is worth $50 an hour? Well, then the organization of the company is not now being ran the right way, right? Because this person is supposed to do this level job, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that should be what the owner is doing. Because if this crumbles, this person doesn't have a job.
Right. Daymond, this has been great. I appreciate you being here. What are you up to these days? Like, what are you doing? What are you excited about?
I'm working with Jobber, giving away money, $100,000 up to $1 million off a lot of other grants. So trying to get more information out there to people on how they should apply. I'm doing biohacking in my, trying to be around a little bit longer. I'm investing and advising. I manage CEOs these days. I've decided to kind of pay it forward from where I've been, because, I believe that everybody, and especially this is really good for the people listening. If you're a business owner, the world needs to know who you are, because they want to know who's behind the businesses these days. Yeah. And it's very important for people to understand how to brand themselves, which then brands their business.
Well, that was great. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Daymond.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. I hope that you heard something today that will help you grow your business. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. I would love to hear from you. Your team and your clients and your family deserve your very best. So go give it to them.